What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to episode number 316 of the BK Bros with Jason and Alex Von Cannell. And we have a massive jam-packed show today because there's actually heaps of stuff going on as usual. But I just want to start out by saying a very special thank you to all of you who have supported us on our social media pages. So our Instagram, it appears shadow banning is finally off because all of a sudden our reels and stuff are actually starting to be shown to people. So any of you who found us because of the reels we posted this week and have joined the page and listening to the show, thank you for your support. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. So just a reminder to people how the ecosystem is going to work. We do have the once a week show, which is our long form show where we discuss all the news that you need to know about. We also have the Instagram page where we are posting reels and more information, etc. And then we also have our website now, which we're really, really proud of. And we think it's going to be a great thing for you guys and for us as well, because we're able to actually post up some more long form blog content on there too. So if you're having an argument with a friend about one of the subjects and you don't want to try to, find the time code from the episode to talk about it, if we've written about it, come to the blog section. You can read the articles, you can share them directly from the website. So you've got that resource there ready to go.
Yeah, it's all there. And don't forget, we do have the donate page here. I've also added at the bottom here, if you haven't started your crypto journey yet, and the very next topic we're going to be is crypto. It's funny because we've had a lot of people reach out saying that we haven't spoken about it for a while. So I've just put our referral code on there as well. Like, we both use CoinSpot. The only reason why I'm recommending them is because they've been by far the best. Like, I've got almost an exchange open with, I've got multiple exchanges that I deal with personally, but I have to say CoinSpot's by far been the most solid platform to use. So there is, if you want to start, there's a referral code there. Don't forget, you got the donation page there as well. If you like what we're doing and you want to help us out, you can send it there. That kind of tips us into, after last week's conversation, when I said you're going to want to get into crypto. If you haven't, do it. And it was very timely that I said it.
Before you move into it, I just want to say, just to reiterate, especially for new viewers, the way that we are running our show is we've ripped this model from the No Agenda show from America. We are a value for value podcast. What does that mean? It means we don't want advertisers because we don't want to be beholden to anyone. So it's one of the reasons why during the pandemic we had to switch from YouTube to Rumble, because instead of self-censoring like YouTube wanted everyone to do during that period, we moved to Rumble to be able to have freedom of speech to discuss the things that now, in hindsight, are proving to be true and correct. So we don't want any sponsorships or anything like that. We will spruik our own businesses because Alex in particular is starting his own businesses, and there might be services involved in those that you might find helpful. But the number one thing is, if you get value out of the show and you want to return value to us, you can do that in a multitude of ways: time, talent, or treasure. So your time is obviously the time you spent listening to the show. It's spent, watching our reels on Instagram, liking, commenting, sharing, all the stuff that helps push us out into the algos. That's super helpful and we really appreciate it. Talent is, you might be, a very talented person who wants to, maybe a theme song or artwork or something like that. If you share that with us and it's stuff that we can use for the show, or even a really big one is insider information.
Yeah.
We have a lot of listeners who are deeply embedded in different aspects of Australia who send us insider info. We will always keep you anonymous and we'll be very careful with how we use that information, as we always have done. But we really appreciate all those tips off and stuff that we get. So that's another way to support. And the final way is treasure. And the reason why we want to receive treasure in crypto, it's not to hide it from the government or anything like that. We are just massive believers in the crypto ecosystem and would like to encourage to onboard as many of you guys into it, because once you get involved in it, you will actually realize how much of a better alternative system to traditional bankings it can be.
And, we've just crossed over, the US has just crossed over $40 trillion worth of debt. Australia's just crossed over $1 trillion worth of debt.
Yeah, congratulations, everyone.
Yeah, so that may be a catalyst for this thing that we're going to talk about right now, which is, since last week, Bitcoin's up 10,000 US dollars. So we were talking about it last week. I basically said, we think it's the best, like Jason, I'll just read out what Jason said. we know it's a superpower. It's been life-changing for me. I'm now even building products in it. You know, the website's an example of something that to show some of the utility for it. And I guarantee you, once you learn how to do it, your life will change and for the better. So, and if you would have done it last week, you would have been up 10%. So, now you had a bit of an article that you sent me about their speculation about why it's cranking. Did you want to touch on that?
Yeah. So it is interesting, right? So what is interesting about Bitcoin, for anyone who's been in the Bitcoin ecosystem for a long time, you'll realize that you go through these bull markets and these bear markets, and they are cyclical. So we are currently we've essentially been in a bear market for Bitcoin for the last, 18 months would roughly be what it is?
Longer, 2 years.
Right? But every single time this happens, the same thing happens. So you get a massive bull market and it runs up really, really high, hits all-time highs, and then people start to take profits at the top, and then obviously it comes back down again and it sits there, and that's when everyone goes, oh, Bitcoin's not worth anything. I told you it was magic beans. You never should have invested in it. And then next thing you know, it ends up going on another bull run, and it always ends up in exponentially higher all-time highs. Now, what is interesting about Bitcoin in particular is how closely it has mirrored the stock exchange in recent years. So Bitcoin has always used to think it was its own special thing that was not dependent on the stock market, but they're both inextricably linked now, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about investors moving capital around to the places they think they're going to get the best returns. And I was chatting to a mate of mine the other day who also listens to the show. Shout out to Chris. About Bitcoin and what we think is going to be happening with Bitcoin next. And I said to him that personally, I believe that we are it's sort of the calm before the storm of the next big Bitcoin bull run, because there are a few irons in the fire around the world. At the end of the day, the number one thing for any sort of speculative asset like Bitcoin is the availability and the price of credit.
Yeah.
So Australia, we are in a high inflationary environment. That's why the Reserve Bank's not putting interest rates down. Therefore, the cost of obtaining credit is high. Whereas in other markets around the world, like the US, for example, they crushed their inflation issues a few years ago. Their rates are still traditionally higher than they have been. But that's also to do with protecting the value of the currency and a whole lot of other geopolitical circumstances that are centered around that. But the number one factor that I'm looking at to sort of not time, but as an indicator of when the next bull run will occur, is probably when capital starts rotating out of AI stocks.
Yeah, for sure.
And we've covered on the show about probably 12 months ago that AI is probably the next big bubble. And the number one reason being, and Alex, you can probably explain this better than I can, but the number one big reason being the capital expenditure of the major AI companies is so extreme. So all these data centers that are being built everywhere, all of these chips that need to be manufactured, the amount of money that these AI companies have not only already invested, but have already committed to investing in the future to support the level of compute required for AI is extreme. We covered about a year ago that what OpenAI has committed to, they can't afford to actually pay. We've also covered stories about, certain companies all involved in that ecosystem that announced $200 billion investments into each other's companies. So the market saw $600 billion worth of investment happening in the space, but it's the same 200 million just being passed around in a circle between three different companies. So all of this stuff looks to me like it is turning into a bit of a bubble. And the number one thing that will pop that bubble is when someone, probably like China did with DeepSeek, comes out with a new advanced AI model that does not require the level of compute that all of these American tech companies have already committed to.
Well, it just happened again. Kimi K3 just did that a couple of weeks ago.
Okay,
did the same thing. It's what DeepSeek did. So yeah, it's basically the big scam is everyone thinks that AI is all compute, but what we've been saying for ages is actually more model centric. A smart model could be the difference between needing half the amount of chips and data centers.
Yeah.
and therefore that's very cheap to produce, and arguably you could get your AI to create your smarter model as well.
Yep.
So when that money rotates, now there was earnings calls for all the AI companies, and they've all made good revenue.
Mm-hmm.
But like we're talking tens of billions of dollars in rev, but we're talking on hundreds of billions, if not like $1 trillion worth of investment into it. Yeah. So when it rotates out, it'll want to look for a safe harbor. Also, you sent me an article about Trump making some noise around trying to buy back 10-year treasury yields. So that's put a bit of a shock into the market as well, which is probably another reason why Bitcoin's had a big pump, because if treasuries are looking rocky, US treasuries are looking rocky, people will be looking for safe harbor, and Bitcoin is a safe harbor.
Yeah. And there's precedence for this sort of model change scenario happening before. Like there's an old anecdote about the space race between the US and the Russians. And the US spent millions of dollars. Now, this is a long time ago, but back when millions was a lot of money, they spent millions of dollars trying to develop a ballpoint pen that would work in zero gravity.
Yeah.
And the Russians used a pencil.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the sort of thing that we're talking about with AI. The Americans, the West, is all gung-ho on compute power. We just need more compute power.
Selling chips. It's selling chips.
That's right. Whereas the biggest disruptor to that AI industry is going to be when someone streamlines the process.
Yeah. Could you pause 2 seconds?
Yep. All right, and we're back. Okay, so I'm just going to just sort of introduce a few of the topics that we'll talk about for today's show, because there has been some huge stuff that's happened this week. So for a start, new legislation passed Parliament yesterday, giving ASIO the most insane interrogation powers that you could have ever heard of. So we're going to delve into that. I think we'll do that next. I posted a reel up about this during the week, but we haven't covered it on the show. We have actually got our first COVID scalp. His name is David Morans, former advisor to the NIAID under Fauci. So we will go into that. He's literally just pled guilty and faces up to 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. So we'll see how that goes. Brief thing I just wanted to quickly mention though. Well, two things actually. Number one, this week in Parliament, Alex Antich, the Liberal senator from South Australia, he actually put in a request for the production of documents from the TGA to produce the documents that they used to evaluate and therefore approve Moderna's new mRNA flu vaccine.
Interesting.
And the Labor members and the Greens voted it down. So I just want you to think about this briefly, guys. After COVID and all the controversy around the mRNA vaccines, the TGA's just approved the Moderna one, and Labor and the Greens think that you shouldn't see the information on how they got to that.
It's a health device all over again.
It's a health device absolutely all over again. So again, they'll be the ones who come out screaming about, people are anti-vaxxers, they're not vaccinating their kids. Why the fuck do you think people don't trust the system anymore? Okay? Yeah. So that's a big thing to keep an eye on. If you've got any friends or family who are thinking about taking an mRNA flu vaccine, just no. Just tell them no.
I mean, we covered it last week in the show. 20% increased protection, 600% increase what is it, category 3?
Yeah, serious adverse events. 640% increase in serious adverse events, and the trade-off is a 0.8% absolute risk reduction compared to the existing flu vaccine, which you already don't even need unless you're a very old person. So just say no. But let's go to the ASIO bill, because this is absolutely insane. So during this week, they actually even only kept debate on this to only 1 hour. So I actually went to the Greens for their media release about this. This was before it passed, but it has subsequently passed. So it says here, Parliament is set to guillotine the ASIO Amendment Bill number 2, 2025 through the Senate today, supersizing ASIO's coercive questioning and detention powers, while media attention is fixed on the government's NDIS and gambling reform packages. It talks about the timing, blah, blah, but I just want to go down to the lines from David Shoebridge. So it says here, lines attributable to Green Senator and Justice spokesperson David Shoebridge, in quotes, "This is the largest expansion of secret interrogation and detention powers this country has seen in over 2 decades, and the major parties are hoping nobody notices until it's law. They were forced to reinsert a sunset date for these powers after community pressure, but we know they want them forever. You know a bill is a bad idea if the government and coalition want to restrict democratic debate to an hour, despite mass opposition from the community and political resistance inside this parliament. Listen to this. Under these laws, you can be locked up and interrogated in this country without ever being charged or even suspected of a crime. That should terrify every Australian, not just the ones in the room. A 14-year-old can be detained and questioned by ASIO with no lawyer and no court oversight, and then when released, they can't tell anyone.
That's crazy, man.
If while you're being questioned, you stay silent or refuse to answer any questions, you can go to prison for 5 years. If you tell someone it happened, you can also go to prison for 5 years. That's the choice this bill hands to an innocent person. So, we're not going to read any more, but just to give you an update on that. So this passed yesterday. Labor supported it. The Liberals, only 2 Liberal senators voted against it, which was Alex Antich and another senator whose name escapes me right now. All the other Liberals left the room. And the only other people who voted against it was everyone from One Nation. So, hey, Conservatives, you want to vote for a Conservative Party who cares about your rights? It's One Nation or no one, basically. Yep. So One Nation voted against it. David Pocock, to his credit, actually voted against something in our interest for once. So well done to David Pocock. And I believe there was another independent who voted against it as well. So essentially, Labor got this through with the assistance of the coalition, because if the coalition actually gave a shit, they would have voted against it, but they left the room, so then they can't be, no one can say that they voted for it.
I mean, it's uniparty. We spoke about last week. They're Absolutely. The uniparty. Labor and Liberal are exactly the same.
Yeah. We covered this on the show a few months ago, I think it was. Well, we went back through the last 20 years. So since September 11 happened, and it has been stepped out the amount of surveillance powers that the uni party, Labor and the LNP, have given themselves, and they have both supported every single one of these restrictions on our freedoms for literally the last 25 years. And They both work together. So again, like if you really think, so like one of the things that the Liberals are talking about now is if the Liberals win power, they're going to get rid of net zero. Great. Except the fact that net zero began under the Liberals.
Yeah, right?
Like it was under Malcolm Turnbull.
Stupid.
Yeah, they think you're dumb. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then they're taking this, like you would call renewable energy a wedge issue, right? So they take this wedge issue and they go, this is how we're so different to Labor. But then, so literally, just to confirm this for people, so you understand it, you can literally be picked up off the street now by ASIO for no reason at all. So think about what they did during COVID with lockdown protesters, right? Think about what they did with the March for Australia protesters and how they treated those people. So now they've handed themselves the legal authority to just rip you off the street, detain you, interrogate you, and to make matters even worse, if you tell anyone about it, you can go to prison for 5 years.
It's just, it makes no sense. It's the, is it the Patriot Act all over again in America, where they were picking up people off the street, calling you terrorists, chucking you in Guantanamo Bay.
Mm-hmm.
There's still people there now. They've never had a trial.
Yep.
We don't know if and it turns out a lot of them were co-opted or essentially, what's the word? They were tricked by federal agents to become radicalized by 3-letter American agencies to become terrorists, which is something we've said here. That's what I think they're fishing for. They want us to be so angry. That's why they're throwing out all these dumb legislations, things that would never, ever pass a pub test, ever.
Yeah.
They want us to be angry, and then they can put these powers, because someone's going to snap, someone's going to do something stupid, and they're going to say, see, that's why we needed these rules.
And just on that note too, so any reels and stuff that we post on Instagram, if you comment on it saying anything about violence towards the people involved, I won't be liking it, I won't be interacting with it or anything like that, because this is exactly the sort of stuff that the intelligence agencies are looking for. You know, like if we post something up and it goes viral, like we got 20,000 views on a reel for the first time ever, which is unreal. It's great for us. But imagine your ASIO now who has these powers, who are like, oh, that guy's talking about some stuff to do with the government that we don't want him talking about anymore.
Pick him up.
They can just come pick us up.
Yep.
So again, you got to play it smart. Like Alex is making a huge point here. You have to play this stuff smart now. Be factual. Don't be aggressive. Just tell people what's happening, obviously, but really play it smart because, like, I think everyone who at least listens to the show will remember that footage of when the New South Wales police came and arrested that pregnant lady in her home for literally posting about a anti-lockdown march that she wasn't even going to attend. And they came to her house and arrested her in front of her kids just for posting about an anti-lockdown march.
And as history will tell, she was right to do what she did.
She absolutely was right. The problem is, now there will be no history because we know that injustice was done to her because we know about it. With these new laws, if they did this to her, you wouldn't even know it happened.
Yeah.
She would have been whipped off the streets. And imagine, again, like the thing that I constantly talk about, and like, here's just like a really brief example of this. A lot of people were talking about the Robert Irwin crack at Carl Stefanovic at the Logies this week, and he didn't show up and we've got a seat saved for him on the far right. Like, you guys need to understand what that is. It's not a crack at Carl Stefanovic. It is the system saying these are the boundaries that you're allowed to live within. And if you say anything outside the boundaries, you're going to be ostracized just like Carl. So It provides a chilling effect to anyone who would consider speaking against that system. And that's exactly what this ASIO bill is going to result in. Now there are going to be people who, again, did the right things during COVID, stood up, made their voices heard, who will now be freaking out going, if I say something the government doesn't like, they've literally given themselves the power to rip me off the street and interrogate me. And if I tell anyone about it, they'll put me in prison.
It's Orwell.
This is Orwellian. Absolutely.
And I do feel too that this is probably another thing that will never ever make it through like a high court challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So even though they've changed the law, there's still like constitutional issues that you have to fight.
Yeah.
But much like during COVID, when and Jason, I have to say you were the one really flying the flag of this. Like, a mandate is not a law. But also an unjust law can be unpicked just as fast as it can be picked.
Yeah.
So when it stands up, like, you've got no evidence to show that I've done anything wrong, it's literally words. In some states in Australia, we do have some rights to speech. In some states in Australia, we do have human rights. Those are being impinged on, but you're still going to have to go through the rigmarole.
Yeah.
You could still get locked up.
And the process is the punishment, and they know that because most people aren't willing to go through the process. Now, 100%. Here's a point I want to make on this as well to remind people. So I posted the blog this week, right? Where are they now? COVID Leaders Edition. And I think that if you guys jump on thevkbros.com and you read that blog, a lot of you will find it extremely interesting to see what these leaders did whilst they were... So it's all based around the pandemic leadership. What they did while they were in office, the money that they funneled through to different corporations, who then they ended up going and working for, right? It's very, very long, so grab yourself a cuppa when you read it. But I think that you'll be astounded to actually read that. But look, I think that stuff is extremely important because when you look at media campaigns slandering people, for example, so like Pauline Hanson is the best example at the moment, right? She is leading the fastest growing political movement in this country, and all Labor wants to talk about is her affiliation with Gina Rinehart, as if she's owned by billionaires, and therefore she will just do the bidding of Gina Rinehart. Well, as discussed in that blog, two ex-Labor premiers, one being Daniel Andrews and the other one being Michael Gunner from the Northern Territory, they went directly from being the premier of their state to working for Andrew Twiggy Forrest. Through his company Fortescue, right? So one of them was Fortescue Metals, the other one was Fortescue Future Industries. So they literally went straight from their offices that they assisted Andrew Twiggy Forrest in getting different businesses up and running and government grants and all of those great things that he loves. And now they go and work for the guy. So when you're looking at narratives, you have to understand, okay, we need to actually look back at people's past records before we actually give them any grace in what they say they're going to do next. And here's the number one thing I want to tell people about Pauline Hanson, and this is the reason why I support her and I will vote for her. On every major subject since I've been paying attention to politics, she has been on the right side of it.
Yep.
COVID, she was anti the vaccines and anti-mandates and anti-lockdowns. She was pro-freedom, right? The trans stuff, she is against. She has been voicing her opinion on that stuff. The climate change and renewable energy stuff. She was saying it years ago that this was going to destroy farmland and our economy. She was proven correct. And now the Liberals are coming out going, oh, but if you vote for us, we'll get rid of it. Right? Because they've been forced to come across to her. Immigration is another thing, right? Lowering the numbers and also actually properly vetting the people we are bringing into this country. Women's rights, all of the things that you should care about, she's been on the wrong side of, on the right side of, sorry, I have to say. She's on the right side of everything. And again, what I find so so interesting is people treating politics like a team sport.
Yes, does me, man.
So they'll pretend that Pauline Hanson is setting herself up to get money from Gina. If Gina wanted to give Pauline Hanson heaps of money, she already would have done it. She's been in politics for 30 years. Everyone who controlled your life and ruined it during the pandemic is gone. They've all retired and now have taken plum jobs with the very people that they assisted from office. So again, the mainstream media is only going to want you to focus on Pauline and her connections. But you guys need to do your own research. And fortunately, I've done it for you. Go read the blog, show it to your friends and family, and go, look, hey, well, Pauline, yeah, okay, she may or may not do the wrong thing if she gets in office. I'm open to that.
Yep.
Trump hasn't done everything we wanted him to do when he got in office, but he's done some really good stuff too. And we hold him accountable for the bad stuff, right? So she may or may
There's
not.
no solutions. There's no solutions. There's only compromises.
Yep.
And no one's going to be the skeleton key to fix all of our problems.
Yep.
But you have to pick who the best person that you have options of. And she is by far and away. And this latest ASIO bill, this is like the perfect example. This shit is so pervasive, and those two parties, they're not in it for us. It's funny, I'm talking to a guy who's very much a robot, and he has trusted the machine his whole life, and he sees the world in a very black and white way, and he hasn't really come across, but he's an NDIS support worker.
Right.
And a bunch of customers that are really in need are having their funding cut.
Yep.
And the hoops that they have to jump through is crazy. And he's sort of complained about it. And he's like, why has the government done this? Like, it's almost as if they don't care. I'm like, dude, they never cared. It's not about that. It's about the infrastructure and the bureaucracy that's in place. Because now watch them start up a new ministerial body that will get $200 or $300 million a year to help facilitate the changes to the NDIS to try and get rid of the rorting, or and you've now proven that it wasn't about trying to get the right outcome, because the wrong outcomes are already happening. And we all know that it would be very clear to just go and get the proprietors of that are rorting the system, get them, not the people that need the help.
Yeah.
But it's because it's not about doing the right thing. It's never been about doing the right thing. Just like green energy, it's not about doing the right thing. It's about stealing taxpayer money and giving it to their friends.
Absolutely. And look, the biggest example of this is happening in New South Wales as we speak. Have you heard about the gun buyback?
Yeah.
Okay. So the New South Wales government, you got to remember, the Bondi terrorist attack only happened, 8 months ago? 9 months ago? 9 months ago, Islamic extremists opened fire at Jews at a Jewish festival. Killed 15 people. And 9 months later, the New South Wales government has now passed legislation to do, in their words, the largest gun buyback since the Howard era. So they're going to take guns from law-abiding gun owners away from them because of the actions of 2 Islamic extremists 9 months ago, and pretend that solves the problem. Like, look how well the machete amnesty bins worked in Victoria, right? We literally have just had this happen in real time, just the state beneath them. They spent $13 million on machete bins, and now there are still machete attacks, and law-abiding machete owners have been forced to give up their machetes, right? So, like Alex is saying, the government does not care about you. This is not about you. In my opinion, the proper response to the Islamic terrorist attack that happened in Bondi is this. The absolute first day is, we need an investigation into our intelligence services to see who missed this. Right? Someone needs to be held accountable. And don't forget...
I said it day one, and we covered it on this show. What's his name? Mike
Burgess.
Mike Burgess had this big song and dance before that had happened. our biggest focus is on white nationalism.
Yeah,
in Australia.
right-wing extremism, domestic
Yeah.
terrorism. Yep.
You're looking the wrong way, dude. We were saying it like that's not an issue. It's never been an issue. And we knew it wasn't going to be an issue. So because all their resources went to that, they had a massive blind spot and they got exploited.
But I don't even think it's a blind spot, man. This is where it gets really insidious for me. The Sun was on a terrorism watch list since 2019.
Yeah, I heard someone coming out and saying they didn't have enough resources. Now, I think it's an allocation of resources. I think they allocated all the resources to look inside at basically a non-threatening group.
Mm-hmm.
And they misallocated because it might be deemed to be racist to look at Islamic extremism.
You know,
and that's why they missed it.
It's actually interesting that you say that too, because another page that I follow on Instagram, The Yarn, they posted this article up during the week. Did you know federal police spent more guarding politicians than on counterterrorism? So the Australian Federal Police spent a record $523 million protecting politicians and government buildings in 2024-2025 financial year, while less than 1/10 of its budget went towards counterterrorism.
Half a B. Do you know that's a sign that no one's talking about? If your politicians need constant protection, they're not doing a good job.
That's right. They're probably doing the wrong thing by the people.
Javier Milei flies commercial. He's the president of Argentina. That is a third world country, and he can fly commercial, and people high five him.
Yep. And this is the thing that like Dave Hughes talks about all the time, right? He travels around a lot. He jumps on planes. He walks through first class, sees all the politicians sitting there, and then he goes back and sits in coach. But he knows those politicians can't sit in coach because everyone's going to rip him a new one.
I need to call out Friendly Geordies. He posted something up today.
I've completely unfollowed him on everything because he's getting worse.
He's an operative.
Worse.
He's an operative for Labor. He's a Labor shill.
Got some of that $67.8 million.
It was Hughesy talking about. It was literally the clip of him saying, "I'm not a property mogul. I have one block of units and I have a house and blah blah." And everyone in the comments is like, "Oh yeah, like the single nurse." You're missing the point, you fucking morons.
Yeah.
His point is that he doesn't benefit from the thing he's advocating for you.
Yeah.
For you. And you have to be an absolute idiot to not see that he's not doing it for him, he's doing it for you.
But also worse
and
still.
And if you just slap that back in his face, makes you a moron.
Yeah, and worse still, he actually benefits from the government changes because all of his properties, his investment properties, are grandfathered in.
He doesn't get. He
says he doesn't negatively gear, but I'm saying he still can. If he wanted to, he still could. But the other thing, can I just say though, as well, the other thing as well, if he wanted to be an evil landlord, like all these lefties think he is, rents are going through the roof. He is now justified to jack the rents because the price is going up because it's supply and demand, right?
Let me tell you, you have to jack the rents to be eligible for negative gearing.
Yeah.
If your rent is too low, you are not eligible for it.
Yeah.
So he's not eligible for it because he's kept his rent. He hasn't moved it since 2017. So he doesn't get it anyway. But I just wanted to say, like, if you think a guy that has more money than you can't advocate for you, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, and what do you think? What are you hoping to achieve? Like,
but it's again, for the left, it is just the politics of envy. This is the problem, right? Like it is such an insidious mentality where, and look, Friendly Geordies, you have to hold massively responsible for it because he's a smart guy. He's knows better. He knows exactly what he is saying is a mistruth. He knows he is feeding his audience lies. Like he knows that. And this is one of the things, so like I was talking to a mate of mine about the success of our Instagram Reels, which I'm stoked about, right? First time.
Congratulations, Jason. You've done a great job.
I'm very happy with it. And he was like, oh, like, you know, you got to be careful about like fame and stuff, like as if we're famous yet, because I don't want to be famous, like funnily enough. But the number one thing that I said is that like the biggest problem that I see is anyone who gets famous young, it's a massive issue because you don't even know who you are as a person yet. And then you get all of this pressure from your audience. And I wonder if this is something that maybe Geordies is a victim of because he got famous quite young, where his content has started to be dictated to him by the algorithm of what his audience wants.
I can attest, I can tell the viewers that you are anti this because we had an instance. You were explaining to me yesterday that one of the apps that you use gives you all this telemetry, and it actually suggested what your next post should be. And I said, "Are you going to do that?" And you went, "No."
Yeah.
And we didn't talk about it, but we don't want our content to be algorithmically fed to us, because that's what's going to take you off the scent.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's what's going to steer you away from the truth. And we're not here for the clicks. We're not here for the numbies. We're here to tether people to reality.
And can I just tell you too, the number one greatest beneficiary of this show has been me in the last 6 years. Like, at least on a personal level, it's been me. So due to coming here every single week and telling you guys about the things that you need to know, it's forced me to research the things that you guys need to know, and I need to know it too. I've made amazing strides in my finances, in my own personal health. Like, obviously, it's interesting how, like, a lot of people who, like, take the red pill, for example, are like, oh, I don't watch the mainstream media anymore because they always lie. No, watch the mainstream media, because it gives you hints as to what you should and shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
I'm actually kicking myself, but look, ethically, it's the right thing to do. I was saying this to you yesterday. I missed a trick. If I wanted to be a really savvy investor, I would have bought Moderna stocks this week, because I know the FDA just approved it. And then in one day, Moderna stocks went up by 177% because they approved this new flu jab. So because you're paying attention to these things because of the show, I've been a massive beneficiary in my own personal life from it. So I appreciate the opportunity to do this stuff. But
also too, just flexing, and I would say in my case, flexing this brain muscle every week makes it very easy to see the elements of the matrix every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're flexing and because you're questioning it. So actually, I need to talk about my blog that I put up during the week, which actually upset some people. So I put one up. I basically got an argument at the gym with the guys there, because they were trying to push for more women in. Now, it started as elite sports,
Right.
And I always want to test people's ideas, right?
Yep.
So I tried to challenge it. So I was like, why? And they're like, oh, okay, because it's good for them, fitness, and lower the, if you lower the weight of the average cohort, then your longevity. I agree with that.
Yep.
That's true. Okay. And I said, what are the second and third order effects of that? And they're like, nah, there are none. Nah. What now? One guy, he had the right answer. He's like, I just want more people to come to my gym. Cool. Profit motive. Perfect. This guy was just like, no, there is no downside to it whatsoever. It's 100% rock solid. It's the best thing ever. I'm like, but yeah, you've just told me you haven't even thought about it.
Yeah.
My whole article, now I did name it salaciously because I wanted to I wanted to light people up, because
you wanted to clickbait people. We get it.
Sure. And I called it breeding cobras in the name of inclusion. And it's a reference to when the British took over India. They had a cobra problem. And the government said, all right, to get rid of the cobras, we'll incentivize the capture of cobras. If you hand in a cobra, we'll give you money. Well, then that created a market for live cobras. So breeders went and bred cobras. And then when the British found out that they were breeding cobras, they ended the program, and the breeders had no money needed. That we weren't getting money for the cobras, so they just set the cobras free. So they got more cobras.
Yeah.
So the idea, if I were to ask this guy at the gym, should we pay for cobras? He would be like, yeah, there's no bad thing possibly that could happen, because we want less cobras, right? And the people that were lit up by my article thought it was an article about women's sport, but it's not.
No,
it's an article about how to think about problems, and how if you can point to every single time we incentivize one particular area, it's to the behest of something else.
Yeah.
And often that something else is worse, and we never tie those two things together.
Yeah. Like, a really good example in Australia at the moment is tobacco excise, right?
Yeah, perfect.
So, first order effect, the government wanted to disincentivize people from smoking cigarettes. And just go back to the main screen so everyone can see our beautiful faces. So the government wanted less people to smoke cigarettes because smoking's bad for you. So they brought in the sin tax. We will make it more expensive for you to smoke cigarettes, and that tax is going to go up every 6 months forever. So the hope was everyone will stop smoking because it'll become too expensive. But then the more expensive it got, what happened? Well, organised crime realised, hey, there's a market here for cheap Chinese imported cigarettes with no excise on them. So they literally created...
I'd modify that slightly. the consumer was seeking out a solution to
True.
that problem. The consumer didn't want to pay $60 anymore for a $10 commodity.
Yeah.
So they went searching. They found the ability to buy imported Chinese stuff for cheaper. Then the black market said, hey, there's an opportunity there.
Yeah.
I can sell it for $15, make a great margin, and literally blow the traditional ones out.
That's right. And literally everyone wins in that regard except the government. Now, then the third order effect is, well, that black market became extremely lucrative. So now we have gangs firebombing tobacco stores that were selling these cheap cigarettes because now they're all fighting over control of this market, which shouldn't exist in the first place.
And the fix that government has come up with is more enforcement, which costs more money that they don't have, which actually is going to increase the amount of illicit stuff. They'll get better at it. And the example I want to give of that, there's a great one, right? Queensland, I read this article and I love it. Okay. This is the perfect sort of epitome to it. But again, you might have to move your mind, right? Because the thing is illegal, which is about marijuana. Okay.
Right.
Queensland Police Service spends $2 billion a year on trying to stop marijuana production and sale. They stop 2% of the market.
Yeah.
The market size, the entire market size, is $4 billion. Okay. In the libertarian world, keep the $2 billion in your pocket and there's no material difference. You put 2% back on the market, which is negligible. You're not going to notice a difference, right? But you get to keep $2 billion. What can you do with $2 billion?
Yeah.
Right? You can fund, or I can tell you, you can fund 10% of your
the health system.
With $2 billion. And that will give you some material difference if they were capable of doing it correctly, which they're not. But this is my point. You can't. It's always enforcement. We've got to enforce. We need to start blaming landlords. If landlords are renting their space to a person that's selling those things, we need to hold them accountable. Okay, let's chuck people in jail that aren't affiliated with it at all, right? Instead of just saying, let's lower the tax to meet what the market is willing to pay. Because the other big side effect of this that no one's really talking about is now there is no data for smoking.
Yeah, they don't even know how many people are smoking now.
Yeah, because the measure was the tax.
Yeah.
So you could calculate, hey, this is how much income we've got, this is how many cigarettes we've sold. That's we could figure it out. Now no one's buying the legit ones anymore because the tax is so high. So we have a whole data set. We are flying blind.
We're blind on. That's right.
But you need to drop it and drop it and drop it and drop it and drop it until you can make it legitimate again. And I would argue if illicit ones can sell it to you for $10, then the price should be $10. Right?
Yep.
So that's the only solution, but that's not even on the table for the people that are in power.
So again, let me add a bit more evidence to what you're saying here. So I said years ago, I think it was before the last federal election, if I was running into the election campaign, I would be running as one of my policy platforms on legalizing marijuana. Legalize it, but regulate it. So just like every other adult-only substance, cigarettes, alcohol, everything in this country, you legalize it, you regulate it, you tax it. You create a revenue stream for the government overnight. You also know that people who are going to partake in marijuana have to be 18 to buy it in the first place and are going to get a controlled product that's not laced with something else that might be deadly for them, right? Now, a lot of people who are worried about young people and whatever, it's always the kids, right? Oh, but like, won't somebody think of the children? Well, let me give you an example of where legalizing something is actually resulting in lower usage of the thing. Alcohol. When we were kids, Australia had a gigantic drinking culture. Gigantic. It was literally part of our national identity. So as teenagers, we all wanted to get pissed all the time and binge drink and drink booze and pass out in a park, right? That was like the fun thing to do back in the day. So new evidence is showing young people, so I'm talking, 18 to 21, young people in Australia are drinking less alcohol than any other previous generation. Now, there's a few different reasons for this. One of them is the cost, right? Yep. Cost of living is through the roof. Alcohol excise is through the roof. It's very expensive to drink now, so young people aren't doing it. One of the other things, though, this is actually a positive downstream effect of social media. Because what a lot of young people are worried about now is being filmed doing something stupid while they're drunk and being immortalized on the internet forever. So, like, a positive downstream effect of social media is young people drinking less alcohol. Now, the other thing too, just to keep on the subject, young people are also more educated on health and fitness than any other previous generation. So through education, these young kids are making the choice to not drink and to eat better and to go to the gym. So even though you can be 18 years old and buy as much alcohol as you want, you can get as much of it as you can pay for. They're choosing not to because of second order consequences of social media and better education.
I would say something else though. So I used to be on your side. I used to think that as well until this cigarette thing happened, which is an example of where the regulation has made the black market industry. It's great because they get greedy, right? You get on that teat, you get on that tax teat, and you just want more and more. Manja,
It's
manja,
not
manja.
necessarily
Give me
the
more, give me more, give me
regulation,
more.
it's the taxation.
But it's regulation as well because
True.
okay, what? Because you can't buy cigarettes everywhere. Special shops,
that's true.
special this, special that. Okay, so I hate regulation now. So I think regulation is the problem. I would argue with the marijuana thing, just don't do anything. I'm not formally legalizing it. I'm just telling the cops stop doing anything about it. Okay, and then keep the money, right? But with alcohol, I would stand to argue, and again, we won't have the data for the exact same reason that we don't have the data about cigarette smoking anymore. I would say illicit drug use has probably gone through the roof. People are choosing to do ice or cocaine or something else instead because it's now cheaper than getting on the booze. Also, if you look at other cultures around the world, something that we do with alcohol is so dumb, in my opinion, is the restriction of time and place is making it taboo. Therefore, so the way I like it is, let's say the natural human being wants to have 5 drinks a week, but you can't have it before 10 o'clock. You can't have it in a park. You can't have it, after midnight. So you're going to have it all between the hours of blah, blah, blah at one particular place, and you're going to cause problems.
And you're going to have all your pissed people in the one place.
Correct. Yeah. So you look at Japan. Japan's got a huge drinking culture. No one ever thinks of Japanese people as drunkards. They drink more than us. And you can go buy it in a shop. There's no age restriction. You can buy ciggies everywhere. They do have a pretty high cigarette. They smoke a lot of darts. But I think from a cultural standpoint, if you just allowed it to be more free, and not by price, I mean the use of it, more free, the natural free market will decide. And the other thing I would say too, I think humans are inherently flawed, and government's trying to engineer a society where we're trying to get rid of all the vices, alcohol, drugs, porn, the whole lot. You're pushing people into dark corners. Whereas if you just understand that the human condition wants these things, and just because you're not stopping it is not promoting it. I don't think it's necessarily promoting it. Like you said, the alcohol consumption is definitely less, okay? And like you said, if the education side of things would help. Same with gambling, right? Sports gambling seems to be the whole center of focus for the left at the minute. And my opinion is, you could go and try to lock down and regulate gambling harder, or you could focus on giving those people other things to do with their money. Like, for example, sports betting is investing, right? It's a capital bet. Put capital here and see if you get a return on it, right? Really, at its core, it's that. It also heightens the experience of consuming of sport. Well, the stock market's only open from 9 till 4, Monday to Friday. So most people work at those times, so they can't do it. But you're going to clamp down on crypto and doing like leverage trading on crypto platforms in Australia. It's illegal. You can't do it. Okay. So that's blocked. Well, if you open that up, maybe some of these sports betting people might actually do some trading instead. And that's something you can refine the craft. There's jobs that people have as professional traders. So
I can guarantee you sports betting is about to go through the roof.
100%.
Because they just increased the minimum taxes on investing. So
100%.
Right?
Absolutely. So, again, that's why I'm saying, that's why I want to go back to what you said about if you regulated marijuana, I don't think it's the right thing to do. I think deregulating everything is better and letting the natural order of things sort it, but give people more options to do more things. The other thing with the Australian condition as well, dude, what can we do? Everything's been taken away from us.
Yeah.
We can't start a business anymore. You can't have a side hustle. You're going to get taxed through the teeth. Like, there's no incentive for us to do anything. So what are you going to do?
If you're gonna, can we just briefly mention payroll tax?
Oh, dude.
If you build a business that's big enough in this country, I can't remember what the exact figure is.
It's $1 million.
Okay,
if your payroll is $1 million a year,
you have to pay tax on paying people.
So just to put that in perspective, if you employ 10 people at the minimum, like basically the average wage, you have to now pay tax for employing those people.
That's right. So again, right, so this is so interesting to talk about in the same vein as the cigarette conversation and the alcohol conversation. The government increases the taxes on cigarettes and alcohol every single year because they want less people to smoke and drink. And yet the government taxes you more and more every year for working, more and more every year for investing, more and more every year for starting your own business and employing people. This is communism. They don't want you to build independent wealth. They want every single dollar you have access to be dependent on the government, either being employed by the government or needing government handouts. They want to control every single dollar that you make. That's what they want. All of their policies show that.
Yeah.
And don't forget too, when they brought in the minimum 30% capital gains tax on every investment, the only investment they didn't bring it in on was superannuation companies, which are run by all of their mates and ex-Labor politicians and stuff.
It's not done for you.
No, none of it's done for you.
And also think about this. So think of the second and third order of things. So let's say that I'm the grand poobah of Australia, right? And I implement my policies and I get to unfettered. I don't have to go through because we become a republic.
Yeah, you're the king,
emperor
of
Australia, right? And I say, cops, don't chase weed dealing anymore. Who cares? Cops, don't chase anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing. Again, that's probably the next blog that I'm going to do. But the headline is, it costs industry $6 billion a year to facilitate it. The department gets $400 million a year, and they've given out 2 fines a year.
Yeah.
So clearly, that's something we don't need anymore. And then imagine how much money I would save. And then the focus, those police officers that have been that are part of that $2 billion cost at just Queensland to try and find to stop 2% of the weed supply, they could go do real crimes, right? So in my world, you don't need more police. You just need to have them focus on things that make an actual material change. Not stuff that doesn't. Like it's actually simple. It's a simple resource allocation, which the free market decides.
So
it's free.
Things that make material change, like deporting immigrants charged with violent crimes.
Yes.
Let me share a story with you. Sudanese refugee Abraham Abbas has been allowed to remain in Australia despite his manslaughter conviction over the killing of 18-year-old Nicholas Henry after the Administrative Review Tribunal overturned the cancellation of his visa. Abbas was among 4 men who chased Henry through Morwell in 2021 before he was bashed and stabbed 8 times. Prosecutors could not prove who wielded the knife, so Abbas ultimately pleaded guilty to manslaughter rather than murder. He received 7.5 years in prison with a 4.5-year non-parole period. Henry's sister later said, "This doesn't feel like justice." Send him home.
If there's any lawyers or judges that listen to our show, can you reach out to us, please? I've got some questions that's sort of irking me about how this stuff all fits together. It just makes no sense to me. So if there are any lawyers, send Jason a direct message on Instagram.
Yeah.
And reach out, and if we could get on a call, because I have a vague idea, because I know a lot of the other Western countries are doing it as well. But I just want to fill some gaps in my knowledge about that. So yeah, please reach out.
Do you want me to just tell you what's happening?
You tell me what you think.
So the Labor government wants to import as many immigrants as they can for votes. It is the California plan, and it was the Democrat plan in America.
Yep.
Bring as many illegals in as you can. Like, illegals was in America. Obviously, they have to be legally brought into Australia because we have oceans. Bring as many people in as you possibly can. give them welfare, give them housing, and then once they become citizens and get the right to vote, they will vote Labor and entrench you in power forever. That is the whole point. So
I think that's a large part of it. Yes, but I think there's something else that I'm trying to get to the bottom of.
But this is where the legal systems thing comes in, because almost every single week you see stories about immigrants charged and convicted with violent crime who are getting reduced sentences based on cultural backgrounds and all this Marxist bullshit, which is just conveniently bringing their sentencing just below the threshold for deportation.
Yeah.
I think that there has been instruction from the Attorney General or somewhere up high in the legal profession of Australia to deliberately make sure that none of these immigrants get deported, because if all of a sudden Australians are able to see that a gigantic number of these immigrants are being deported for violent crimes, what do you think the community is going to say about mass immigration? Like, how can you justify mass immigration anymore when it is clearly seen in the data that they are bringing in violent criminals from the wrong places?
Yeah. Yep.
That's what I think a big part of this is.
Yep.
And I feel really sorry for the police, because the police are sandwiched in the middle, right? They're just trying to do their job. They pick these people up, they do the investigations, they hand it over to the justice system, and the justice system lets them down time and time again. And this has been a story for a long time.
Resource, that national allocation of resource.
Yeah.
So, yeah, vote one me the Emperor of Australia, and I'll sort it out. I mean, I can fix housing tomorrow, deregulate the housing industry. So, and when I say deregulate it, if you want to build a cardboard box on your block of land, build a cardboard box on it if you're going to live in it.
Yeah.
Okay. But you have to understand the market's going to value that whatever they think. So if they see a cardboard box on there, it's not going to be worth any money. So I've got a bit of an example of this. Like, we've been talking to the family. We've got some Maori land in the family, and it's so hard to do anything with it. There's, I don't know how many millions of acres of undeveloped land in New Zealand, because there's no incentive to do anything with it. Right?
Because it's not commercial. You can't develop it and sell it. It
stays
owned by the
because there's no profit motive, nothing happens with it. And for these lefties to go, oh, it's a human right, blah, 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 blah. There's an example of, if you can go and have a look and see that's a Marxist sort of protectionist thing. Go and have a look at how it's worked, or it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So again, one of the algorithms that we use to think about the world is we pick up information from other places in the world and see what works and what doesn't. Japan has no problem housing people. They've got an excess of houses. They'll sell you a house for 10 grand, because one of the things is they make houses very easy to build, because they have a lot of earthquakes. They fall over, so they can put them back up again. They don't have a housing issue. Yeah. Right? But you can build whatever you want. But no one goes buck wild and no one builds cardboard boxes, because it's still a bit of a societal thing. Like, I want to live in something that I like, right?
If it's cheaper to build, you can build nice things. Like 100%. Pauline Hanson talks about this all the time. About 45% of the cost of building a house in Australia is government taxes.
It's outrageous.
45%. Houses are averaging $1 million at the moment. Half of it, 450 grand, is just taxes. Right? Andrew Bragg is he's actually doing some good work on this, Liberal senator, who's a moron about certain things, but this he's on about. He's talking about the fact that our housing code has grown from being 200 pages 20 years ago to 2,000 pages today. Yeah. And do you think the quality of housing has improved in the last 20 years? Absolutely not.
I was only talking to some of the old boys at the auctions on the weekend. We were talking about how we prefer old units, because the old units were more sturdily built, bigger inside, bigger footprints, and much nicer to live in.
Because most people have the same budget when it comes to building a house, and you can either spend $500,000 on just the house, or $300,000 on the house and $200,000 on taxes and regulations. Which one's going to result in a nicer product?
Yeah.
The $500,000 house, but it costs you the same.
And again, I'm going to throw this out there now too. I've been doing the sums, and you can do this for yourself. The concession for negative gearing is $20 billion a year. Okay, so $20 billion a year means that the private sector picks up the tab for majority of the debt. How large is the Australian housing market? $7 trillion?
I think it was about $4.5 trillion.
$4.5 trillion. Okay, so $4.5 trillion worth of property that is primarily built by the private sector and managed by the private sector at a cost to the taxpayer of $20 billion of concessions. It's not a real cost. It's just a concession of $20 billion. How much does it cost to build Like if the government was to take on that burden and build the places for themselves, how much would it cost? I'll give you the tip. A lot more than $20 billion. So the sheer metrics around the cost of it fall on a heap straight away.
And just to, again, unfortunately bring this back again, especially for new listeners, the scariest thing to me about the housing market in Australia is it appears this is the globalist agenda, right? You will own nothing and you will be happy. So at the same time earlier this year, the Labor government brought in new increased CGT taxes and removed tax exemptions for Australian investors in rental properties.
Yeah.
A year ago, they lowered withholding taxes on overseas investors to build properties in Australia through the build to rent scheme. So they used to have 30% withholding tax. They lowered it to 15%.
Incentivize internationals that don't pay tax.
And it's a build to rent scheme. So it appears to me like this Labor government, the whole plan is you destroy the middle class, right? There is no support for small business. Every single week, small businesses are going under. Small business used to be the lifeblood of this nation, okay?
Yep.
And they collect GST revenue and tax revenue and payroll tax and all that sort of stuff. They've made it harder than ever to actually run a business in this country. They have made it completely like you would be retarded to buy an investment property right now with all of the tax changes and everything that they have made. If they don't change these taxes back, in my opinion, the entire property market's overcooked by about $500,000 a house. Because who's going to buy it? Like, they're not investments anymore, right?
Yep.
But at the same time, they have made it cheaper for your foreign hedge funds, your BlackRocks, your Vanguards, your State Streets, to literally come here, buy plots of land and build houses or apartments on it through the build to rent scheme that Australians will never be allowed to buy.
And I can also tell you too, the same can be said with shares, right? So what is going to happen? The incentive for Australians to invest in shares has gone down by a factor of half, basically, and now the incentive. And I know people who are doing this. They've gone and set up shop overseas, and they're still going to play in the Australian stock market, but from abroad because it's zero tax.
That's right. And also, hold on, just to wrap it up. Minimum taxes as well is a big change. So if you're a young person, right, 18 years old, mum and dad and your auntie and uncle give you $10,000 for your 18th birthday. Say, congratulations, mate. Here's 10 grand. Go and invest it into the share market while you go to university and do your studies, right? So you're not working. So you're not making the $18,000 tax-free threshold in this country, right? And then by the grace of the market, that $10,000 turns into $20,000 through compounding interest and everything through the share market. Great news. You've made $10,000 in profit. If you sell those shares in the old system, you would have made $10,000 profit for that financial year, which is under the tax-free threshold. Therefore, you'll pay $0 in tax. In the new system, it is a minimum 30% tax, regardless of how much money you made. So instead of making $10,000, you make $7,000 because you have to give Albos $3,000.
And you don't get a rebate for any losses you make. So you bear the risk. So you front the capital, you bear the risk. If you win, you pay. If you lose, you get to bring your loss forward into a winning year. It's bullshit, dude.
Yeah. So in other words, they follow the money. They've taxed you on cigarettes, alcohol, investing, housing, working, starting a business and building wealth for your community. They've taxed you on all that sort of stuff. Meanwhile, they've decreased taxes on foreign hedge funds to do the same thing in your country. Think about that. And on that note, thanks very much for joining us, guys. Again, like, share, subscribe, follow our Instagram page, jump on the website, read the blogs, all that stuff. Share it with your friends, and we'll see y'all next week.
See ya.